Welcome to Pioneer Human Services Employee Expectations Training. This is what we're going to review today. Please save questions for your HRBPs if you have questions. We will use the 2015 expectations form. This will talk about how we write expectations. There are forms available on PioNet. From the search box on PioNet, type in expectations with an S at the end, hit the search button, and the forms will come up. There's one form for employees and one for supervisors. That's the leadership form. The difference in the forms is found in the competencies. We are using paper this review period, and they will need to be submitted with assigned appraisals for your employees in March. How do employees know what we want if we don't tell them expectations? All jobs are connected to our mission, and when writing expectations, those expectations should be connected to the mission or vision of the organization. As leadership, you should be sure your unit objectives are addressed in the expectations so employees better understand how their job impacts the unit and the organization as a whole. The employee is still responsible for performing all aspects of their position as outlined in the job description, and this is a good time to update job descriptions if they're not accurate. For expectations, you should have 3 to 7 range. That way they're not overwhelming, and if you have too many critical expectations, none of them seem very critical. There should be adequate expectations that are manageable so the employee can feel they're successful. These expectations will be what you review and score in next year's appraisal. You need to ensure the expectations are substantial but attainable. You will monitor throughout the year to ensure expectations are still being worked on and give new expectations if those were accomplished. We will use the SMART goal criteria to develop expectations. Be specific. Explain exactly what needs to be accomplished. Use clear everyday language when describing key results that are expected. The goal is that both the supervisor and the employee have the same understanding of the expectation. The simpler the language, the better. Describe what action will be taken, for example, to complete, reduce, or increase, and make the expectation measurable or observable. There should be a relatively objective means of assessing how well an expectation is achieved. This can be based on behaviors that are observed either firsthand or through reports. Make expectations attainable. Performance expectations should be challenging but not impossible. Make sure it's within the employee's authority to accomplish, and make sure the employee has the skills, knowledge to fulfill the expectations, or that they will be given the training. Expectations should be relevant to the vision and mission in your unit. They should be realistic, within the time period and resources available, and time-bound. Expectations should have a definite start and end. Committing to a due date will allow employees to create the milestones to achieve on the way to that goal. Expectations. The overall point of employing metrics is to communicate an employee's progression toward a certain long and short-term objectives. When metrics are measurable, those measurables should be set at the same level for everyone in the unit with the same job title. You shouldn't expect one employee to reach a goal of 90 and another to reach a goal of 70 for the same metric. In giving examples, performance expectations for a lower level employee often define tasks he or she need to accomplish in order to meet the expectation. For example, if an administrative assistant is expected to assume responsibility for creating presentations, her performance expectations might mention the training classes they need to attend. For example, assume responsibility for presentations by attending a beginning PowerPoint class in quarter 1, and then assisting with at least 3 presentations in quarter 2, and attending an advanced PowerPoint class in quarter 3, and independently creating at least 3 presentations in quarter 4. Make sure any training requirement is available and within your budget. Everyone in PHS must possess specific core competencies. In this section, you need to give 1 to 3 examples of how this competency should be performed in the employee's position. Specifically, expectations for customer service for an RM1 may be different from a quality assurance supervisor. Looking at a customer service, what example would you think of that would show an employee they're successful in this area? For instance, in a work release, kites should be logged and requests answered and returned to residents within the agreed upon time frame or escalated to case manager as appropriate. Kites will be initialed and dated by the RM that completed them on the day they are worked. An administrative role of receptionist. Client customer inquiries will be answered with the appropriate greeting, including your name. You will answer promptly with correct answers or referral information provided in a courteous and respectful manner for each contract. Can you think of an example of punctuality for one of your jobs? One example might be how about arriving to scheduled meetings on time and prepared. As you can see, management competencies are different from employee competencies and are all required to be a great leader at PHS. Examples of leadership communication for your position include building trusting relationships with staff and managers by providing accurate, concise, verbal, and written responses to their questions. Leads all assigned projects, ensuring clear, concise communication with stakeholders, project, team, and senior leaders. Holds regular staff meetings, ensuring critical information or changes in process is timely communicated to your direct reports. Can you think of an example for either ownership or personal management? Each core competency on this form is taken from reentry. Each division may have specific core competencies, but is not required. They will be unique and not simply repeating PHS core competencies. If your division does choose to add core competencies, they should be standard for all employees, so you should communicate up your chain of command to determine what is required. Professional development and support. The next 2 sections are unscored, but something a supervisor needs to pre-plan prior to your review with the employee. You should be thinking about succession planning, skill deficiencies, and future organizational needs. You need to know your training budget and research available opportunities. As you talk to employees, this is a two-way communication. It gives you the opportunity to discuss what you see as opportunities for growth for them, and they have an opportunity to ask about what might be available for skills and competencies they feel they need to move ahead in the business. Professional development opportunities is a mandatory section, and you should be encouraging professional growth for your employees. These can be small or large opportunities like speaking skills, presenting at an all-staff meeting, customer service skills, shadow the front desk for a certain period of time. For written skills, first draft of a presentation or slides. Project skills, assist another employee with a project. Technical skills, shadow another employee for a certain period of time. Technical skills, take an online computer tutorial class. Leadership skills, research and attend a leadership training. Organizational support is an optional section should be discussed with the employee during the presentation of expectations. If the employee wants to add anything to this area, they should be clear on what they need and why. An example might be the employee wants to learn how to use a pivot table to assist in presentation of metrics in a new way. You'd need to determine if there's training or online tutorial they can participate in. You have to figure out the cost and when it would be offered. You should review and consider these suggestions. If you're unable to answer questions on availability, research, or ask the employee if they're aware of resources. And then get back to the employee with answers or alternatives for them if what they're asking for isn't available. And what do we do if employees don't agree with the expectations that we've identified? Management does have a right to set expectations, but we also need to ensure they're understandable, fair, and achievable. After discussing concerns, if you believe the key result is appropriate but the employee doesn't agree, consider agreeing to a specific date for an interim review to provide feedback and reassess the situation. You may revise the expectations as needed. Objectives change, and this should be a joint effort. You should take what they have to say into consideration and possibly make revisions. However, if you make a revision for one person in a job title, you should make the same revision for everyone within that same job title and communicate that to everyone. Interim reviews can be set as often as you like. You should review progress of the employee on each expectation and competency. If necessary, you can further define expectations or modify the timeline. Most importantly, you need to assign new expectations if they've been completed by the employee. No employee should be without expectations that they are working towards. Although interim reviews are unscored, you should document the progress and conversation to assist you at the end of the year when you're creating appraisals. We have provided this expectation training, and you will submit to HR the signed 2016 expectations at the same time you submit the 2015 appraisal. HR is available to review prior to presenting to employees. HR doesn't require your supervisor to review expectations prior to presenting to your employee, but you should check with your supervisor to see if your division has a different practice. Again, you will submit the signed expectations at the same time you submit the appraisal and the employee's signed job description. If you should have any questions, please contact your assigned HRBP. Thank you for attending this training.